Hello, I'm Amy Merkel, a counselor and transfer center director at Santa Rosa Junior College, and I will be presenting the workshop Preparing to Tag. So I'm excited that you're considering a tag to a UC campus, and this workshop will help answer some questions for you, as well as give you a basic understanding of what the requirements are to tag to the UC campuses that participate. All right, so let's go ahead and get started here. All right, so here are our objectives for today. We're going to talk about what a tag is, the campuses that participate, the criteria that you need in order to tag, how to apply for a tag, and then a review of the Transfer Admission Planner, or we refer to it as the TAP. So what is a tag? A tag is the Transfer Admission Guarantee, and it's for highly competitive California community college students. So it is only for students that are attending one of the community colleges within California. By participating in a tag, students are going to receive an early review of academic records from UC Davis and UC Merced. So what that means is the tag is turned in by the end of September, and you will hear typically by mid-November if your tag has been accepted by UC Davis and UC Merced. The other campuses don't provide that early review. You're just informed through the regular admissions process. And then you'll receive specific guidance about major prep and GE as well that needs to be completed. So the campuses that participate, there's 6 out of the 9 of them. So Davis, Irvine, Merced, Riverside, Santa Barbara, and Santa Cruz. So you can tag to one of these campuses. You want to keep your options open by applying to other UC campuses during the regular admission cycle, which is November 1st through the 30th. The campuses that don't participate are UC Berkeley, UCLA, and UC San Diego. So you can do your tag to, let's say, UC Davis, and then you can apply to as many other campuses that you want. And if you receive admissions from one of the other campuses that you would prefer to go to, then you do not have to go to UC Davis, okay? So who can apply for the tag? California community college students, including international students with a visa. The California Community College transfer student has to have completed 30 UC transferable courses at one or more California Community College, and the last attendance was in a regular session at a California Community College. Those 30 units have to be done at the time that you submit the tag application. So for a tag in the month of September, you have to have those 30 units done by summer, basically. Okay, so that's really important to keep that in mind. And they will include AP units or IB units. So if you have an AP test or you did IB in high school, we can include that in the calculation of the 30. If you are a student athlete or you have taken a lot of activity courses within PE or CAD classes, we need to take a look at that because they cap those units, okay? Students that cannot apply for a tag, those with a bachelor's, graduate degree, or a professional degree. Students who've previously enrolled at a UC campus during a regular term, not including summer session. So you cannot tag back to that original campus. So if you went to UC Irvine, you cannot submit a tag back to UC Irvine, but you could tag to one of the other campuses like UC Santa Barbara. And the reason for that is you're a readmit student. So it's a different process that you go through for getting back into the same university. If you are a high school student, dual enrolled at SRJC, you may not participate in a tag. You go through regular freshman admissions. So the tag criteria, you need to meet minimum admissions requirements. You need to meet the unit requirement for the tag, the 30 units. The GPA requirement for the tag. So remember I said the tag is for highly qualified California community college students. And really what that means is you need to have a higher GPA. So where Davis will admit students at a 2.8 for their non-selective majors, let's say an English major, to tag to UC Davis in English, you need to have an overall GPA of a 3.2. And so that's the GPA requirement. So it's important that you research those and make sure that you qualify for the campus you're looking at tagging to. Your English and math requirement for the tag. So campuses do this a little bit different. Some campuses want English and math done at the time that you are completing the tag. Some of them require that they be done by the end of fall. So you can't have like English 1A in fall of your final year at SRJC and your critical thinking or second English class in the spring. So you need to research those. Those limitations for tag, again, if you're an athlete, things like that, we need to look at. You need to have the UC planner filled out, so that's the TAP account. And then you're going to apply through regular admissions between November 1st and 30th to the campus that you submitted the tag to. So the tag is separate from regular admissions. You still have to complete the UC application, and that's really important, and that is done in the month of November. One of the reasons they have you do that is if you don't meet the tag criteria, they want you to be through the regular admissions cycle that you could be accepted through regular admissions. So the minimum admission criteria to be considered for UC admission as a junior, you must fulfill the following requirements. You have to have completed 60 semester units of transferable college coursework by the end of spring prior to fall admissions. You have to have at least a GPA of a 2.4 or a 2.8 if you're a non-resident. However, there's very few students that get in with a 2.4. So you really want to aim for a 3.0 or higher. And again, to tag, it needs to be even higher. You need to complete either IGETC or the 7-course GE pattern. The 7-course GE pattern is your 2 courses in English, 1 in math, and 4 courses chosen from at least 2 of the following subject areas: your arts and humanities, social and behavioral sciences, physical and biological science, and then your major prep courses for some majors. The four-year universities really want you coming in with as much major prep as completed as possible. And then for some students, it makes more sense to complete IGETC than just the 7-course pattern. So it's important that you speak to a counselor about that. The 60 transferable units, again, must be completed by the end of the spring semester. You cannot be doing those in summer prior to starting at a UC in the following fall semester. The tag unit and GPA requirements. So to submit a tag application, again, you need the completion of the 30 UC transferable units by the September filing period for all UCs. To fulfill the tag, you need completion of 60 transferable units by the end of spring. And the tag GPA varies by campus and can change each year. So for example, I already told you that UC Davis, you need a 3.2 for most majors, a 3.5 for engineering and computer science. UC Irvine, you need a 3.4 for all majors that allow a tag. Santa Barbara and Santa Cruz, they will allow fall grades to be included in the tag GPA. So you can fill out your tag in September, and let's say for UC Santa Cruz, you're at a for UC Santa Barbara, you're at a 3.3 and you need a 3.4 to tag. They will look at your fall grades and calculate that in. So that's a possibility, and you can talk to a counselor about that to see how close you are and if it makes sense to do that. So to pursue the tag, you're going to fill out the transfer admission planner. That's the TAP. You can start that today. We highly recommend that you just create that and then make changes each and every semester to your coursework and your grades. You'll want to attend a tag workshop through the Transfer Center in September. So what we'll do is go over the requirements of the tag, and then you'll log into your TAP account and we'll answer any questions about your tag. Complete the online tag application via the TAP between September 1st and 30th. You'll submit that UC application during the regular admission cycle of November 1st through the 30th. And then you'll fulfill all your remaining coursework and maintain that GPA requirement in your TAG agreement for the fall and spring semesters. All right, so the Transfer Admission Planner, or the TAP, is an online tool to help prospective UC transfer students track and plan their work. So some of the benefits of the TAP is the UC outreach connections and updates. So the UC admissions reps can reach out to you through the TAP. I can reach out to you through the TAP. I can inform you of workshops that are going on or rep visits, things like that. You can receive peer mentoring from the UC campuses that you have said you are interested in applying to. You'll use that TAP account to complete the TAG, and the academic information that you put in the TAP can be pulled over to the UC application so that you don't have to enter that twice, okay? And this is the website for the TAP account. So snap a picture of that, and after the workshop, go get started on your TAP account. When you log in, this is what it'll look like. So you'll create that new TAP account, and then once you have your login and password each time, you can just enter it in here. And then these are the sections of the TAP. So there's an About Me section, there's my academic history, and my transfer plan. Your messages or record review is down in here. So it's broken up by tabs. You can skip and save and come back however you want to do it. You can update your TAP at any time, as well as your TAG application until you submit it. Even when you submit a TAG up until September 30th, you could call it back and make changes. You could change schools if you wanted to. So it's very easy to use, okay? All right, so the My Information is basically just your own personal information, very easy. You know, your email address, things like that, the campuses you're considering, any support programs you have participated in, the colleges you've attended. The My Messages is where you would receive updates from myself or the UC admissions. The coursework is where you're going to enter all courses and grades and units completed. So you'll enter transferable courses. Those you can just start typing like English 1A and it'll pop in and auto populate from Assist. If you took English 100, which is a non-transferable course, or you attended a school outside of California that would not be on Assist, then you would manually enter those courses yourself. You do have to report any gaps in education. You do include any D's or F's or withdrawals, as well as any courses that you repeated. So your coursework entry should mirror your transcripts, and you include all colleges you've ever attended, no matter what, out of the country. You got all D's or F's, you withdrew, everything gets included, okay? They ask for gaps in education because they're pointing out to you that they see you were not enrolled in school and they want to make sure something isn't trying to be hid from them. So if you were not registered in a college for a certain amount of time, you would just simply type in, I was working, or I was traveling, or I was ill, whatever it was. It doesn't need to be a full, 5-paragraph essay there. Just short and sweet is fine. If you had AP or IB exams that you earned college credit for, you can put those in there as well. You're going to review it and check, the system will review it and make sure that you have met minimum eligibility requirements. So this is a student that attended San Diego Mesa College. They took the English 205, which is their critical thinking. They have calculus here. Here's the explanation as far as a gap in their education. They were working before attending college. And then it shows a non-assist units and GPA, and then their overall as well. So the GPA and transferable units are preliminary. The UC campuses go in and look at it themselves. So they're not going off of this. This does a little bit of the work for them, but they physically go in and double check everything. Lost my mouse there. Okay. So then when you're applying for a transfer admission guarantee, you must submit the TAG application. you're going to complete the UC admission application to be valid. And then you can, again, tag to one campus for one UC campus and one major. So what you do on your tag for your major is what you are going to apply to that school. So if you tag under managerial economics, you need to apply under managerial economics to UC Davis, okay? And then you can apply to other campuses via the regular admissions cycle, and you can, you know, if you did managerial economics to Davis for your tag, well, you could do, you know, business to UC Berkeley, and that's fine. It doesn't have to be the same when you do it that way. All right, so this is just showing the timeline. Your tag submission period, September 1st through the 30th. Your UC application period is November 1st through the 30th. Davis and Merced will typically inform you on November 15th about that tag decision. And then in January, you have to do what's called the transfer update, where you go in and you inform the campuses of what your fall grades were and if there were any changes to your spring class schedule, okay? So you want to do that. At this time, Merced and Santa Cruz will accept a tag for spring applicants, and that tag is typically done in the month of May, and then students apply in the month of July for the winter or spring quarter or semester. They're on different systems there. All right, so the UC tag majors, UC Davis, the major is guaranteed. However, there are some majors that are excluded from the tag. That's the same for Irvine, Merced, and Riverside as well. For Santa Barbara, some majors are guaranteed. For a lot of majors at Santa Barbara, you go in as a pre-major. That's the same for Santa Cruz. And there are some majors that are excluded from the tag. At UC Santa Cruz, at this point, there are no majors that they exclude from the tag, so all majors will accept the tag. So you want to keep in mind there are some majors that do not allow a tag, and be sure that you do your research before you get your heart set on one tag campus. Every year, the UC creates a tag matrix. Let's see if I can open this so that it's a little bit bigger for us. I don't know if this is going to work here. Oh, here it comes. Okay, perfect. And so this shows the tag requirements by UC campus. So you can see the units that are required, the GPA, the eligible majors, any excluded majors, deadlines, and supplemental materials. So that's what this looks like. So this was from this last year, the 21-22 tag application period. And so this shows here, which is really helpful, you know, is pre-evaluation done? Is the major guaranteed? What majors are excluded? And then the contact information. On the next page, it shows some information about units and GPA. And then this is a really important page, completion deadline for English and math, okay? So for Davis, you had to have both UC English classes done by the end of fall 20 in order to tag. That's a tag requirement, not a regular admissions requirement. And then same for math, it had to be done by the end of fall. So if a student, again, was registered in English 1A in fall of 20, planning to take their second English in spring of 21, they did not qualify to tag to UC Davis. So they would have to come and look at each one of these to see, well, is there a campus that I could do? Here is Santa Cruz. You needed first English done by the end of fall, second by the end of spring. So the student could tag to UC Santa Cruz. So the matrix is very helpful. All right, so just some reminders, both the tag application and the UC admission application must be submitted in order for the tag to be valid. We've had students in the past who submitted a tag, but then did not follow up with a UC admission application. So then the tag was void because they didn't go through the regular admission cycle. So you can do one tag for one UC campus for one major. And then again, you can apply to other campuses via the regular admissions process. The non-tag campus can be different for the major. You need to follow minimum UC admission plus any specific campus tag requirements. And just keep in mind that the tag is not a binding contract. You can sign a tag to one campus, but can attend another campus. So it is not bound on your side, okay? It's bound on the UC side, that if you meet all of the tag criteria, then you are going to be admissible to that campus. So just a few tips to prepare. Meet with a counselor to review your coursework and create an ed plan. Mention to the counselor that you are interested in doing a tag. Review the tag matrix to ensure you're satisfying requirements for each campus. And create a TAP account and begin inputting your coursework as soon as possible. So if you have any follow-up questions, don't hesitate to reach out to the Transfer Center. You can call us, or you can go onto our website. Under the tab of resources, we have a link to tag information. We update that tag information in every summer for the following tag cycle. So we typically start to learn new tag criteria in May. And usually May through August, we're getting that information and we're updating it on our site. So if you plan to tag in the fall, start looking at that tag information on the Transfer Center website in the summer to see what changes have been made, because changes can be made each year as far as GPA goes, or course requirements that need to be done and that type of thing. So good luck. And don't hesitate to reach out to the Transfer Center if you have any follow-up questions.